Welcome to Mind and Movement, getting smart about how you move. I'm Hazel. Thank you for joining me for Coffee and Move number 52. Cheers. Today we are going to do a bit of movement in our hips, stretch the hamstrings a little bit. And so what I've got here is just a chair with a bolster on top of it. I'm going to use that to support some of my weight when I'm doing the stretch, just to show you how to do that. So it's just a really simple hamstring stretch. You can grab a half roller if you've got one, that can increase the stretch. But to start with, let's just basically hip hinge, and you want to have something in front of you that you can rest your hands on, just for balance to start with, and just so you can take a little bit of the load with your hands. So I'm going to bring my feet a little bit closer and push my bum back. So the thing that I'm really focusing on here is keeping my knees straight, not bent. So I'm going to keep checking in and being like, are my knees bent? Are my knees bent? Are my knees bent? And then here I'm just going to really lift the sacrum, the bottom of my bum up. So you don't want to be in this position. You don't want to have what we call your pelvis tucked and your spine rounded here. So it's just a hip hinge. Nothing in the top of the body changes. And when you get to your end point, which for me is about here, you can put your hands down and just shift your weight around a bit. So I'm going to shift my pelvis back. You can take your feet quite close together and then do different widths. So let's start with our feet relatively close together, and you'll feel a particular load in the hamstrings when your feet are that close, and we can spread them out a little bit, and you can feel what that feels like. If you're absolutely fine taking the weight, carrying your body with your torso, go for it. And then you can take your feet a little bit wider, just checking in to make sure that there isn't any posterior tuck happening here of the pelvis. And just hanging out. So then what we're going to do is we're going to start shifting our weight side to side. So if I stand this way, then you can see I'm in exactly the same position as I was before. I'm taking the weight back in my heels, and then I'm just going to shift my weight to the side. So all of my weight, most of it, this foot's still on the ground, but a lot of my weight is now in this leg. So I'm getting kind of back into the back corner of the hip there. And I'm asking my glutes and my hamstrings to really take the load of my body and not my quads. And for many of us, this is a really foreign feeling. So just play with going back as far as you want. So from the side, this is what I'm doing. I'm hip hinging, making sure my knees are straight. Then I'm taking my weight this side, but back into that hip. So also, it's good to watch yourself in the mirror, because what I just did then was I shifted kind of sideways, because shifting back is for me a bigger load, and we tend to avoid those bigger loads. So the other thing I love to do here is change the angle of the feet. So my feet are relatively straight, pointing straight ahead, but if I point my toes slightly together and then hip hinge, and then shift my weight side to side, you get very different loads in that hamstring stretch, which for me specifically on my right leg, when the foot, so I'm taking the foot into what we call internal rotation, but really I'm taking the femur into internal rotation. And then you can do both at the same time. Then I'm hip hinging, making sure that the hips are on the same plane here, because lots of people will turn like this. You don't want to do that. And then hip hinge there, and you'll get a different load. Make sure your quads are off. Oh yeah, lovely. Okay, let's turn that other foot in, or both at the same time. So, and then I'm focusing on leading the movement with my feet, but it's really my femurs that I'm internally rotating, and then sticking my butt back, taking that load with my hamstrings and stretching my hamstrings, but getting into the back of the hip joint there. Yeah, and that feels really good. So the other thing we could do then is turn the feet out. Now many of us have a foot turn out anyway, so for a lot of people, if you go to your, this is where I like to stand and stretch there, you probably won't feel much of a stretch because you're there all the time. But if you took your feet a little bit wider or a little bit narrower but still turned out, you might get more of a stretch there. So just explore. Where is it here? With my feet pretty much straight ahead? Is it here with my toes turned in or my femur internally rotated? Or is it here that I get most of the stretch? And you're going to find that you get more stretch in the positions that you don't spend much time in. So that's why we just want to open up to experiencing a whole lot of different positions. And what we're doing here when we do that is a lot of nice work in our pelvic floor. We're repositioning the femur and then doing that hip hinge, which is applying some really nice loads through our pelvic floor. So let's try the turned out. So I'll do it here, and I'll bring my feet a little bit wider so you can see what my feet are doing. So I'm turning my feet out, then I'm hip hinging, but I'm making sure that my femurs are going along with my feet, yeah? And then I'm hip hinging there, and noticing what I feel. So here I'm just checking in that my quads are off. Really thinking about making sure the back is not rounding and that I am getting a nice relaxed pelvis tipping forward. And then I'm going to shift from side to side here. Oh yeah! So on this side with my foot turned out that way. Ooh, and you can try different foot positions too, so close together, far apart, they're all going to bring different loads into your hips. And so now I'll try with my feet quite wide, but my feet turned in and hip hinge there. And then shift from side to side. Oh yeah, right up in here. So some of you will feel this in the calves, more in the hand or in the hamstrings. I very much feel it in my hamstrings or my glute up through here. And then shift to the other side. When you're shifting, make sure you are just shifting side to side and not kind of rotating around like that. Make sure the hips are on the same plane this way. So I'm shifting this way now, as you can see. Oh yeah. And the other thing you could do there is then grab a half roller, like I've got here, put it down there, and then I'll show you from the side here. I'm going to put my feet up on it. So this is, I'm putting both of my feet on it, double calf stretch if you want. Then I'm going to hip hinge. And then I'm going to feel different loads because we have taken the foot into dorsiflexion, which means I'm tensioning that tissue around my superficial back line more. Okay, now here I can shift it gently from side to side. Yeah, so we in restorative exercise call all of these different loads, so most people just do a hamstring stretch like this, but we call it rainbow loading. So changing the position of the foot, changing the distance that the legs are apart, shifting the weight from side to side, just creates a huge number of different loads, which means you can find the tissue that's really tight in you and then get movement specifically where you need it. Awesome. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to drink my lime water and do some other work, but have a great day. Have fun moving today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.